It's official. I released my biggest secret in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are excited for this. I know I am. I am the father. Just kidding. Okay, no, you guys, I don't know how many of you guys actually believe that. But no, many of you guys were commenting under my story saying, oh my goodness, like, are you a dad? Like, you literally like do the devil's tango with everybody. And I'm gonna be brutally honest here for a second, all right? Like, even though like I do the devil's tango a lot, from what I know of, I am not a father, okay? And the reason I'm saying from what I know of is because, you know, in the long run, like I kind of get it, you know, like, you know, we have like these things on paper where it's like condoms and are 100% safe and all this stuff. And, you know, chicks with IUDs don't actually like run through and stuff. I don't know. Like, there's so many like sketch marks to doing the devil's tango. And like I always say in these stories, I don't advise anyone go do it. Like, don't do what I do. It's just not it, chief. But anyways, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome back to another crazy story. So if you guys saw from the title, yes, this is actually a pretty crazy story. This was back in high school. I remember this was my grade 10 year. Honestly, like this was around the time where like I was like totally going through like my like F-boy phase. And you know, my F-boy phase wasn't the best, I'm gonna be honest, but at the same time, it was just a natural thing to have, I guess, for every boy's life nowadays. It's just, if you really think about it, nowadays society is like, you know, anything could be considered bad for you. Like I know like we have those kids in school that like vape like chains and stuff. And I know we have like those kids that like sit in their rooms all day playing video games, crying every night. Yeah, basically my life nowadays. But anyways, let's get straight into this. So back in high school, my grade 10 year, I was a natural kid. Okay, I was just doing my own thing. I was just, you know, being the F-boy I was. And I remember one time, like there was this one chick that you know, I always like hooked up with and stuff. And she was a natural chick. She was kind to me and everything. And it wasn't anything severe. Like we both had our own friend groups. We both were doing our own thing. Like we didn't look like we were friends in school. But once we like, you know, got to like either my place or hers, let's just say things did go for the devil's tango. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. But I remember one time specifically, she came over and, you know, we were just hanging out, doing our own thing. And obviously, like, you know, we did the devil's tango and things were all good and delightful. But I want to say like a week went by and, you know, this girl was not talking to me. I don't know what happened, but she was literally just ghosting me. And at first I was like, oh, okay, she ghosted me. Oh, well, time to find a new girl. Like, you know, I was just kind of like letting it go and stuff. Cause you know, that's what I kind of was like back in high school. Like I didn't really have any like major attachments other than my Xbox One. But then after that, I realized I got a DM on Snapchat from this girl. And it was like after like a week and a half. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And she DM'd me and she's like, oh, like I don't have my period yet. I think something's going on. Like I'm not bleeding. I think you might have gotten me pregnant. And like, I am very worried. Now, at first I was actually panicking because like I remember in my head, I'm thinking like, I can't imagine little me is going around saying like, baba booey, baba booey. Like, it's just not it. Like I had a little panic myself. I am not gonna lie to you guys. But at the same time, I remember like thinking like how I'm gonna get this through and stuff. Cause I know like there's this whole thing with like abortions going on nowadays and stuff. And to be honest, instead of saying my opinion, let a girl do what she wants with her body. That's kind of my whole choice and everything. So whatever choice that is, I guess just go with that, I guess. I don't know. If you guys really want to argue about abortions in the comments, go for it. But I'm not gonna put any entitlement into it. So like I was saying, she messaged me saying that she got pregnant. And obviously I was worried and I was panicking and stuff like that. So I remember I literally texted her saying, hey, meet up with me at like Tim Hortons. If you guys know what that is, it's a Canadian brand because I love Tim Hortons. And me and you can talk about this whole thing and figure it out and make sure everything's okay. She agreed, obviously, and she was like, yeah, okay, like let's go do it. Like, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, like we went down there and we started talking. But then I want to say like an hour went by and one of my homies called me and he was like panicking and stuff over the phone. He's like, oh my goodness, like Bubba, like something crazy just happened, bro. Like, I don't know what's going on, man. And in my head, I'm thinking like, yo, like what's going on? Like, are you okay? Like, what do you need? He told me that he got a chick pregnant. And that's where I was like really iffy on it. Cause I was like, wait a minute. There's no way we're gonna have kids at the same time, bro. No way. Claps, dude. No, I'm just kidding. I did not say that. No, in a way, I was actually like, you know, asking him questions. I was like, oh, what are you gonna do and stuff? Like, are you okay? Like, you know, instead of worrying about myself and about the chick I got problems with, I started asking about his problems and seeing what was going on so I can kind of like learn in a way of what I should do. And he was kind of like freaking out saying like, oh yeah, like this chick, bro, like she was saying like how like I got her pregnant and I'm not sure what to do. And like he was like, it was just freaking out back to back. And I understood it totally because I was kind of feeling the same way. So to think me and my friend were both gonna have kids at the same time was a big worry. Or get told that we got a chick pregnant at the same time was a big worry. I should probably reword that real quick. Anyways, so what ended up happening was I told him to literally meet up with this girl and talk to her and stuff like that. And she said, yeah, like I'm meeting her after at Tim Hortons after she's done with her dad and stuff. And, you know, I was just worried and stuff. And I'm like, in a Tim Hortons? What? I'm meeting my chick in a Tim Hortons. What? What the heck? So I remember what ended up happening was we both had the same meeting on like the exact same day, but at different times. It was like an hour later compared to mine, which really was odd to me and stuff like that. But to be honest, like I wanted to be there and support him and stuff. So I asked him, and I was asking him like all these questions like, hey, do you want me to come with you and stuff like that? He's like, no, I don't want this girl knowing, like, you know, I'm telling people, like, I want to make sure everything's okay. You can come like after, we can hang out after. And I said, okay, that's fine, even though like, you know, I have the same issues going on. All right, so what ended up happening is that exact same day, me and this girl were heading to the Tim Hortons. We were walking, we were talking, we sat down, we had a cup of coffee, and we were just talking about, you know, how like, you know, this all came about and stuff. And the thing that really freaked me out, and when I actually started digesting like this could be my kid, was the part where she pulled out like that little like thing, that like little stick that tells you if you're pregnant or not. And she's like, this is yours. And I'm like looking at that thing, and I'm just like shaking, and I'm like, are you joking? At that moment, I was really debating on calling my dad, because I knew my dad was like always by my side back then for when it came to this kind of stuff. Even though he never like, you know, supported it and stuff, like he was always there for me. Because I'm not gonna lie, like I said, in high school I always did mistakes. But like I was saying though, I remember just sitting there, standing there, like just looking at that thing, and I'm thinking, there is no way in hell that's mine. I don't know, guys. This is gonna sound really crazy, but every time I do the devil's tangle, like I take precaution, you know, my pull-up game's #1. Like I make sure everything's safe, you know what I mean? So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm just panicking, and like, you know, I started like thinking through my head like, okay, there's no way, like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. And then of course, you know, me and her, we talked about applying stuff, and we said we'll talk further, like, you know, with her parents and stuff in another day. And I was like, screw it, okay. So I remember I walked out of there, and I saw my friend came in as I was leaving, and it was my buddy that literally said he got a chick pregnant as well. Now this was really odd, because at first I'm, you know, I'm dabbing him up and like, oh, what's up, homie? He's like, oh, I'm meeting my pregnant chick. What about you? I'm like, oh yeah, I just met my pregnant chick, you know, like we were just chilling, talking, and then I realized something. He was going to the exact same table as I did with the same pregnant chick. So in my head, I'm thinking, wait a minute, bro. Like something's off here. Something's off here. He's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, you know, she told me I got her pregnant and stuff. And then like, I remember I looked at him like, bro, she told me I got her pregnant. So this is where things got fun, because I remember me and my friend were kind of like talking and like in between that door, and we were like saying like, we should like both go up to her and see who's the real father. And we're like, screw it. Like, let's do it. Like, I'm on, like, let's go. So I remember me and him, we walked up to her and we're like, yo, what's up? You know, like we pulled up our gang. No, I'm just kidding. We weren't really gangsters. We were just two random teenagers, but I'm gonna be honest. But I remember we walked up to her and we sat down at the table beside her, and we're like straight up like, okay, so listen, apparently we're both the father. So unless, you know, you're lying, what the heck's going on? So as we were sitting there, we're kind of like, you know, like obviously like interrogating her in a way. And I remember she said these words, and I actually felt kind of bad, but at the same time it was kind of funny, where she was like, oh, I remember like after like a week of not talking to you, Bubba, I was talking to him, and honestly, like when I got the stick and it said I was pregnant, I wasn't sure who was who. So I was kind of going off my killer instincts to sell whose baby's whose, and if the baby kicks, then it's yours. Bruh, you literally found out you were just pregnant. A baby's not gonna kick in your stomach. Dude, honestly, it was just a whole like lot of BS. I'm gonna be honest. Like it made no sense to me whatsoever what she just said to me. It was like the baby was gonna like mind read us and like just be like, he's the father, and then send like the mother some like major magical powers to tell who, like, who's the dad. Like, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. The kid's not gonna whip his wand out and say, you're my father. Like, no. So I remember me, him, and her were talking, and we were just going through this all, and we're like, listen, like this doesn't make any sense. You need to run through with us exactly what you mean, like what's going on. And I want to say like she was like kind of like getting to that verge of crying. So we like, me and my friend kind of backed off. We're like, okay, we're not gonna talk about this anymore. But we told her like, once you've actually found out who the real father is, tell us, you know, like be honest with us. And she said obviously okay and stuff like that. Like we weren't gonna like really go harsh on this girl, because she is, you know, she was pregnant. Like that was a real thing. And all I'm gonna say is, guys, is that after a week later, I ended up getting a phone call from my buddy saying, bro, you are so lucky. And the reason I was so lucky is because the kid was actually his. And yeah, it felt good not being a dad. You know, even though I'm called Bubba, and you know, in most languages Bubba means daddy, it feels good. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for all the support on these amazing videos. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace. I remember my ex-girlfriend looks at me and says, I'm literally pregnant with your kid. Like, just be with me. At that moment, I stood there frozen. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing but yet crazy story. So today's story all starts off in my grade 12 year. Now in grade 12, I'm gonna say this right now, this is the year where you have to plan out your future and figure out what you want to be as you get older. As for me, well, I never expected to be a YouTuber, but thanks to you guys liking and subscribing, it helps a lot. But I remember one time in my grade 10 year, I had this one girlfriend that I want to say was literally insane. I remember from time to time throughout our high school years, she would always like just treat me like total dirt. And I am not joking. Like, I guess in a way in the beginning, I enjoyed her being toxic with me, but over time, as things got worse and worse, I started realizing that I didn't like her. I liked the thought of her. So I broke up with her. I made it throughout known the whole school from my grade grade 12 year that I broke up with this girl, and let's just say she did not like that. I remember from time to time again when I would go out and hang out with the boys, funny enough, she would end up actually stalking me and actually follow me around, and actually, I don't know how she got my location, but she would always be where I was. Like, for example, one time I was in the parking lot with my car with me and my friends, just hanging out in a parking lot because that's what you do when you have a cool car. And as we were standing there, I remember my buddy looks at me and says, "Yo, Bubba, is that your girlfriend across the street just staring at us right now?" I remember I looked over and I saw it was her, and I started freaking out, and I actually ended up walking up to her saying, "Yo, what are you doing here? Bubba, like, I don't understand why you broke up with me. Like, we were literally perfect together. Like, we were gonna live our whole lives together and everything." I remember I kept looking at her, and I knew it was very obvious to me that she was obsessed, and I could not do anything about it. Like I said, I broke up with this girl and I wasn't interested in her, just the thought of her. So I remember I ended up basically telling her to leave me alone and just stop talking to me. Like, there's no possible way me and her would ever get back together until, well, she got a crazy bright idea. I remember throughout the week, I remember it was a school day, and me and my friends were all sitting in the school cafeteria. We were sitting down just talking about life and stuff and what we were planning to do after graduation. I remember as we were all sitting down in the cafeteria though, one of my friends ended up looking at me saying, "Yo, Bubba, I just want to let you know, bro, like, you know my girlfriend? Yeah, I know her. Why, what's up? Me and her, honestly, I might marry her because, like, I got her pregnant recently and, like, I don't want her to go through it alone, so I'm gonna marry her, bro." I remember me hearing this, I was very happy for him because honestly, like, you know, getting a girl pregnant was one thing, but actually, you know, staying with her and being with her still throughout those hard times is something that you don't see very often nowadays. So I remember I ended up congratulating him and stuff, and he was telling me how he's, like, planning on proposing soon. And it was actually really cool. But I remember I ended up asking him a question after saying, "Wait, bro, I have a question. If you didn't get her pregnant, would you still be with her?" Good question, bro. To be honest, I'm not really sure. Like, I don't want to say 100% yes because I've had my doubts and want to focus on my career. But to be honest, like, I care about her a lot. So yeah, I because of this baby, I feel like it's a big push through. I remember when he said that, I felt weird about it, but at the same time, I respected it. And I remember right as he told me that as well, I ended up looking to my left. I saw that my ex-girlfriend was literally listening into our conversation, and she heard everything. I remember when I looked at her though, she had a bright smile on her face, and she ended up walking away. And honestly, at this point, I didn't understand why. I remember a day went by, and basically, I was just at home one day. It was a Friday night, and I was just hanging out doing my own thing. And basically, that day, I remember I ended up getting a text message from my ex-girlfriend. She ends up texting me that, you know, she's feeling really alone, and, you know, she feels like she's in a really dark place and that she really just needs someone to be there. And me, like I said, I wasn't totally cruel back then, but at the same time, like, I was a player still in a way. So I remember I ended up basically getting in my car and driving over to her place, and I stayed the night with her. And yes, 100%, if I end up staying the night with a girl, chances are I ended up doing the devil's tango. But doing the devil's tango, that time was the biggest mistake ever. I remember the next week happened, and I was in my classroom just doing homework. And as I was doing homework, I remember my ex-girlfriend actually ends up walking up to me. She walks up to me with this weird, like, pink thing in her hand, and she hands it over to me. And when I looked at it, I saw that it was a pregnancy test. I ended up looking at her and I said, "Yo, what? You do realize, like, my pullout game's 100%, right? Like, this can't be real." Because on the thing, it said that she was pregnant. Now, my ex-girlfriend showed me this, obviously made me freak out. But when I looked at her and asked, "Wait, so are you, like, actually pregnant? Like, are you sure?" She looks over at me and says, "We have to be together. Like, I can't raise this kid without you. And, like, I need you in my life. Please, just take me back." At that moment, I stood there frozen. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should say yes or no or anything, to be honest. So I did the one thing I knew that I was best at. I ran away. No, I didn't run away to a different country and change my name, but I ran away and I went to my friends and I started talking to them. And I even brought the pregnancy test with me, and I'm holding it, freaking out and just saying, I don't know what to do. I remember as I was telling about all this, I remember my friend that was dating this girl that was actually pregnant. She ends up grabbing the pregnancy test and holding it with her hand, and she looks at it. She looks at it very closely and says, "The pregnancy test is not supposed to be that color. It looks drawn on to me." I remember I ended up looking at her and said, "Wait, so did she fake it?" Bubba, I'm not gonna lie. I think she did end up faking this pregnancy test. This is not real. When she said that, I felt a light of hope. Like, I am not joking. I ended up getting super happy and super excited. But obviously, she didn't know that I knew that she was faking it. So what I ended up doing was actually kind of crazy, but really insane. Where I remember I ended up basically asking my ex-girlfriend out on a date. And when me and her went on a date, I remember during us eating in the restaurant, I ended up handing her a pregnancy test and said, "Hey, babe, I was just wondering, can you take another pregnancy test?" She ends up looking at me in panic and saying, "Babe, I thought you already knew I am pregnant. Like, I don't need to take a pregnancy test." "No, babe, I need you to take another just in case." "Babe, I don't want to take one." Why don't you want to take one?" I don't know. I just don't." And that's when I looked at her and brought up the old pregnancy test that she gave me earlier and said, "Babe, you do realize what you did is illegal, right? You can't just trap me with a fake baby that's not real." "Papa, that's not what I was trying to do. Just please be with me." "Girl, I gotta get out of here." And at that moment, I ended up standing up from the restaurant and I ended up leaving. Yes, she ended up having to pay the bill for both of us, but at the same time, Hey, that's the price you pay when you end up scaring me, faking that you have a baby. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's embarrassing story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. Okay, so for all the girls watching, I just want to let you know, if you're in any way in middle school or high school, please, and I mean please, stay away from guys that want to get you pregnant. Because I'm not gonna lie, there's some weirdos out there that would love to get a kid. And I'm telling you one thing, bringing a kid into this generation or world is honestly the last thing I want to do. But today's story is the most insane story ever. And honestly, I gotta say this, it's gonna be a wild one. So my opinion, sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Because seriously, over 67% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, which is absolutely just goofy. So just subscribe and let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another insane story. So today's video is I'm pregnant. Now, I'm not actually pregnant. I just want to let you guys know, nor have I ever had a kid. But me having a lot of, well, devil's tango could always lead to having a kid. And for all the people that are like, oh, like, what do you mean, Bubba? Just use like protection. You'll never get a kid. Yeah, I'm just gonna say this now. If you guys didn't know already, at least 13 out of 100 people get pregnant even if they use a literal protection rubber thingy. And I'll say this much, me in high school, I was a pretty bad boy and I thought I had like 100% pullout game, so I never really actually paid attention to that. And I always kind of just did it raw dog style, if that makes any sense. I remember one time though, there was a girl back in high school that I was seeing a lot of the time, and in a way, me and her were like friends with benefits, but at the same time, like we really wanted to like maybe conceal the lock and maybe actually become in a relationship. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was never really good at relationships back in high school. I didn't see a point in it because if you guys didn't see my video where I explained that dating in high school is dumb, well, that's what I thought in high school. I thought I was just dumb. A time in high school is to when you really like figure out what you want to do with your future and basically do the devil's tango with all the people that you will not probably see in your future. At least that's what I thought. But going on, I remember one time I ended up hanging out with this girl that was my friends with benefits, and me and her, we decided to go to her place. And when we were at her place, I remember me and her were just talking about basic stuff and really just talking about what the future could hold for us if we ever did get together. Like, I think most people that are like friends with like an opposite gender would basically have this conversation of like, hey, like what if we like started dating, and basically lead to like what could happen to the future. And then I remember one thing led to another. Me and her, we started talking about having a kid. Now, as a joke, I remember I always used to say that I want my kid to be named Yoda. And yes, I would love for my kid to be named Yoda, because imagine like if he gets older and he's super cool, then he could be called Broda. Okay, that sounds weird, but you guys know what I mean. Like, I don't know, having a kid at such a young age and thinking about it in high school seems like a really cool future. Like, don't tell me that a lot of you guys haven't thought about growing up and having a kid and having a family and all this parental stuff. I don't know, now that I'm 21 and basically telling stories and making YouTube videos for a living, having a kid would be pretty terrifying. But I remember basically me and this girl, we were talking about it, and honestly, I remember she looked at me and said, honestly, like, do you want to like maybe like actually like have a kid? Wait, what is what I said? I was super confused that she literally just asked me to get her pregnant and I didn't know what to say. So I decided to tell her like, no, like I don't think it's a good idea, and that maybe me and her should maybe stop seeing each other. And you guys got to understand, like when a friends with benefits wants to become more than, well, friends with benefits, it could lead to a lot of dangerous territory. So that's when I usually decide to close it off, because for some reason girls have a faster way of like connecting to others than guys do, I guess. I have no idea. But I remember basically she was like talking to me and stuff, maybe like talk me down and like say like, oh, like no, it's fine, like we can keep seeing each other, like don't be nervous. But me, I decided that this would be the last time I saw her. So her knowing that, I remember she ended up going to the bathroom, and I have no idea what she did, but she was in there for a while. And I remember she came out, and me, as I was going to my backpack to pull out a rubber, she looked at me and said, oh, like we don't need that, like don't worry about it. But then I told her, no, like I'm gonna use a rubber, like obviously. And if you guys don't know what I mean by a rubber, I mean like a condom. I just want to let you guys know, always use protection if you guys are going to go do the devil's tango. But then I remember I looked at her and said, okay, I'm just gonna get one, like come on, like you gotta understand, I gotta use one. And then she said, oh, like I have one for you. And then she pulled out one out of her pocket, like she had it there the whole time. I thought maybe she was like mentally preparing for me and stuff like that the whole time, and maybe she just knew that it was gonna happen, so she wanted one to like pull out instantly as we're in the moment. So I remember I decided to put that one on, and me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango. But as me and her were doing it, I remember after everything was over, I ended up going to the bathroom and I ended up taking off the condom. When I did, I remember I looked down and I like was pulling like the thing off, and one thing I realized was that there was a hole in it. I remember I was freaking out and like thinking like, what? Like how did I put a hole in this thing? Like there's no way. Like that's it. Like she's gonna get pregnant. Like I'm done for. So I remember I came out of the room literally not wearing anything and saying, hey, yo, there's literally like a hole in this. She looked at me and like kind of giggled at first, but then kind of looked at me all serious saying, oh, wait, are you serious? Oh my goodness, like there's no way there's actually a hole in it. Oh my goodness, like, okay, we have to talk this through. So basically, me and her had a conversation about what we should do, and I told her instantly, go get plan B. If you guys don't know what plan B is, it's basically a way to like make sure like a woman doesn't get pregnant, or at least helps out to like make sure a woman doesn't get pregnant. So that's what we did. I remember me and her, we got dressed, we went to my car, we drove to the nearest store, and basically I got her plan B. Afterwards, I remember I went back home, she took the pill, blah, 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 and one thing led to another. The next day ended up happening. I remember I ended up going to school, and the whole entire night I could not sleep, because I won't lie to you, that shock and scare of getting someone pregnant is terrifying. And also the percentage rate of plan B actually working is 95%. Okay, so like you never know what's gonna happen, dude. Like that 5% of my little swimmers could be like, ooh, egg, we're gonna get an egg. Like you never know, dude. So I'm like freaking out at school, just like walking around the hallway thinking like that's it, my life's over, you know, I'm gonna be in like childcare development, like I'm done. Okay, like I'm done, dude. Like I didn't know what to think. But then I remember as we were walking around, I saw the girl, my friends with benefits, and me and her, we would never really like actually like talk together at school, because we didn't want people like putting a connection together that me and her were like talking or anything, because you know, obviously we were only friends with benefits. That would mean like if we really wanted to move on and date someone else, we could. But then I remember she decided to run up to me as she saw me at school in the hallway, and she ran up to me saying, Baba, like I need to talk to you like now. Okay, is what I said. And then I remember me and her, we ended up going to another room, which was our science classroom that no one was in at the time, because science, you know, wasn't on yet. And basically I remember she looked at me and she held her stomach saying, Baba, I'm pregnant. Wait, what is what I said? I was like, are you kidding me? Out of the 5%, you got pregnant? Like I remember I was freaking out, and I was just panicking back to back to back. I didn't know what to think. So I remember literally that day right after school, I remember me and her, we got into a car and we went to a clinic and we talked about it through and stuff. And literally, apparently I have like no say in what happens to that kid, is what the doctor told me. So she kept telling me over and over, oh, like it's not your choice, it's the mother's choice. But like it's my little swimmers is what I told her, but she didn't care. She didn't care at all what I have to say. So I remember as that was going on, I remember I looked at her and said, okay, listen, I understand it's her choice and her body. I understand. But at the same time, you gotta understand, I am too young for this. I basically gave her like the speech of, hey, I'm a high schooler. Understand that. And she kept telling me how like it's very common for high schoolers to have this issue and stuff. And honestly, to this day, it freaked me out. But then I remember she ended up making the choice that she didn't want to have a kid. And you guys know what happens the rest. I'm not going to say, because obviously there's a lot of people with different opinions when it comes to the word abortion. But at the same time, life heads in many directions. And some people don't get to have and enjoy the life that we want. I don't know. There's no reason. But at the end of the day, it was one of the biggest scares of my life. And to this day, all I'm going to tell you guys watching this video is always be careful, because you never know what's going to happen. There was more to the story, but honestly, that's a story for another time, because obviously, you know, telling our parents what ended up happening was not easy, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, guys, follow for more embarrassing but crazy stories. Peace out, guys.